Graham Platner, who is, until this past week, cleaning up on the main senatorial run, legendary crash and burn senatorial run so far for a Senate seat that is currently occupied by Susan Collins. Susan Collins is supposed to be this like moderate, experienced Republican. She's famous for constantly saying that she is very concerned about what Trump is saying and doing. But of course, she always votes along the party line. She's always very concerned, and she's also always aligned with the Republicans. Vanity Fair article regarding Platner. Graham Platner, main Senate candidate, says he's removed his Nazi tattoo of skull and crossbones. It's been covered up with some kind of Celtic knot with a dog on it because that's far more in line with my opinions that embattled Democrats. Vanity Fair in the wide-ranging interview. Dude, it'd be so funny if someone finds out that the second tattoo, the cover-up tattoo itself is also racist or something. Oh my God, I would lose my mind. Anyway, obviously everybody understands Susan Collins sucks. Any sort of seat that you can put a Democrat ass on in the Senate is good. It's better than having a Republican ass on that seat. Just make no mistake. This has always been my position. This will always be my position. Okay. This is literally what I even talked about with respect to all these pro-Israel senators that are Democratic Party senators, even in the state of California. It's still like on at least some of the other issues, they are going to every now and then behave in a manner that is better than fucking the Republicans. Now, of course, the worst example of this is John Fetterman, who has become a Republican with a Democrat with a D next to his name. And a lot of people are afraid that Graham Platner is going to become the same person. They think Graham Platner is a John Fetterman, and they are afraid of him becoming more of a John Fetterman if he were to win the race. I think that there is obviously a big L here. The big L being that proper vetting is required. Proper vetting for candidates like this is obviously required. There are certain things that are understandable as red lines. A Nazi tattoo on your fucking chest is an understandable red line. This is exactly what I said yesterday. And this is still what I am saying today. What the fuck are we talking about? Are you kidding me? Okay. Now, having said that, there is still something about the way liberals are behaving around this that I think is not that bad. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because I think liberals by and large, it seems, have been fed up with establishment Democrats. And if someone like Bernie says, this is my guy, liberals, boomer liberals, who under no circumstances in the past, in numerous other election cycles, would have ever aligned with Bernie and a hand-picked Bernie candidate over someone like Janet Mills, are saying, nah, fuck that. We need to do something different. I like that because, as I said yesterday, imagine if someone did not have Blackwater in their CV, in their resume, or a Nazi tattoo on their chest. The sky's the fucking limit at that point. If you had a candidate that had the same platform, okay, or maybe even more overtly anti-American militarism, for example, right, and was a person that did not have a Nazi tattoo on his chest, or a person that also did not do 4 tours and then join fucking Blackwater in 2018, then sky's the limit. And this is what I said as well. I said, seeing a lot of libs defend Platner over the establishment pick Janet Mills because he has left this platform, and it seems like they're tired of the status quo electability arguments of the Dems. Now imagine if you had a candidate who didn't have a Blackwater CV and a totem cough. Now the Blackwater CV doesn't even matter all that much to liberals by and large. And I think that's more so a thing here. That's more so a thing in our community, in our spaces, on leftist spaces, understandable level of scrutiny. necessary for someone who comes from that background, because it doesn't show disdain or distaste for the actions that you took as a part of like a machine gunner squadron in the quote unquote war on terror. Okay. And it doesn't signal that you were, very critical of that experience, more so that you were critical of the impact that it had on you and others around you. Okay. But having said that, there's a lot of Marine Corps veterans that watch you. I'm assuming you know that. Yeah, no, I have never been and never will be I'm going to spit on all the troops type leftist. I think it's stupid, it's silly, it's unproductive, and it's not something that I believe. Okay. Obviously, Blackwater is a little bit different. Okay. Obviously, joining a private paramilitary group, like as a mercenary, after an entire decade of war crimes is a little bit different than just like touring, okay? Or being in service. So for me in particular, that's a big disagreement that I have with like a lot of people to the left of me on what their methods are about developing a true anti-imperialist left. I've never been that guy, and I'll never be that guy. Now, people will bastardize my position on this no matter what, because they think it's like a defense of Graham Platner in particular or a defense of Blackwater. It's not. And it's certainly not a defense of anybody that has a Nazi tattoo. But all of these things combined and then matched up against his background, matched up against his private correspondences on Reddit, paint a rather interesting story. Having said that, it's understandable that a lot of people are like, I'm out. But what I'm more invested in here is the way that liberals are responding to it. Now, we'll see what the polls show. Okay. We'll see what the polls show down the line. But it does seem like, at least initially, that many liberals are saying, nah, fuck that. We're with them. We're riding with Platner. And I think that's very interesting, especially when there is an alternative, a centrist alternative that's 77 years old. Her name is Janet Mills, two-time governor of the same state. An alternative that was hand-selected by the establishment Democrats. This is very important. Okay? This is very, very important. In any case, let's take a look at how MSNBC's Morning Joe is covering the matter.
New piece about that race up in Maine, the Senate race. A Democratic candidate there putting the party's interest in younger and fresher candidates through a stress test after his controversial social media comments have surfaced lately, along with images of a tattoo. Nearly 10 years ago on Reddit, Graham Platner wrote about how as he's gotten older, he's become, quote, a communist. He also made disparaging comments about police and minimized challenges faced by military members in reporting sexual assault. As for that tattoo, Platner revealed he has a skull and bones similar to what was worn by the SS on his chest. Platner has apologized, but now appears to be leaning into the controversy. Dave, you got some new reporting on this for Semaphore. What can you tell us?
Yes, I talked to Platner yesterday as this was going on, before he said he'd remove the tattoo, but after he told Pod Save America, he gave them the video and said that people were going to attack him over it. And his argument is that
was also very interesting, because they knew that the Oppo was coming. They knew that the Oppo dump was coming, and they wanted to neutralize it. His team very clearly wanted to neutralize it by going to Pod Save America ahead of time and leak it ahead of time. It's interesting because that means that they knew that this was coming down the pipe, but he didn't actually say like that means that there was awareness that this is a Nazi tattoo at that point. But he still didn't actually say that he was aware until, the oppo was coming out. And I think one of the first things he should have done, it was like, yeah, as soon as we figured out that this was like a Nazi tattoo, it's crazy. I know it sounds like 20 years of not knowing that it was a Nazi tattoo. I know you're not going to believe me on this. Unbelievable, because it is unbelievable. Okay. But I'm getting it removed, right? I mean, he did say it after the fact, but still.
He is a different kind of Democratic candidate, and the Democratic Party will suffer if it tells men, he's 41, men who grew up online, who posted some things that they regret, that they're not allowed in politics ever.
I will say, totally amoral, Democratic consultant hat wearing moment for me would be, if there is a way out of this, and I don't know if he will be able to recover from this, but if he does recover from this, that is majorly beneficial for left flank candidates, actual leftist candidates that don't have this fucking insane background to thrive all around the country. And the best possible way to defend against this, this obvious indefensible action would be to say, oh, it's just like cancel culture. It was young, dumb, and stupid. There is one thing that a lot of people are talking about. Dude, stop, man. Just divorce yourself from this dumbass already. Guys, as long as I continue covering this story, if you guys are going to keep saying, no matter what I talk about, like, oh, you're defending Graham Platner, I'm not going to be able to get anything done here, okay? I'm not defending him. You don't have to support Graham Platner. I don't care, okay? I don't care. My job as a political commentator is to analyze the way people are looking at these sorts of newsworthy incidents. Okay. In any case, like, even when I put my fucking Dem consultant hat on, if I were to wear the Democratic Party consultant hat on, his response and washing this away or hand waving it away, even if it's like the most severe thing, okay? Because like in terms of running for office, I would go so far as say nowadays, like a Nazi tattoo on your fucking chest and like being an active pedophile are probably the two things that are supposed to fucking tank a campaign. If he can withstand that, that means that there is tremendous amounts of goodwill and capital being afforded to left flank candidates. Okay? Think about what this means. Think about what this means. No, the reason why I think it's ridiculous that even people in this chat didn't know that it was a fucking Nazi tattoo is because it very clearly is the third most prominent Nazi insignia. And I have talked about it quite extensively. Okay? So obviously there are still plenty of people who in this chat will go, I don't believe him and I will never believe him. I'm not going to defend against that because it's a fucking Nazi tattoo on his chest that he had for 20 years. That's crazy. It's literally the Are We the Baddies skull. It's shocking.
As he's confronted with these questions, he has a lot of support among progressives, including Bernie Sanders, who told 7 Before yesterday he's sticking with Platner. A lot of progressives who think there is a double standard here, that their candidates are grilled and asked to explain away things that are not problems for other people, and also sincerely that people born after 1980 are going to run for office with a sketchy online record. That is how he is trying to package everything.
I was going to say, this is the other conversation that I've been having with people in the media as well, is that they're saying, look, if you don't want fucking boomers to be elected, if you want someone who's younger to be in a position of power ever, going forward, all of their social media profiles cannot be considered a burden, because everyone under the age of 50 has like extensive social media footprint, unless they're like, I don't know, Zoran Mamdani and have like a clear-cut agenda and have aspirations for office down the line or something. You know, that's such a ridiculous argument. It's just not true. I don't think it's I mean, this is not in defense of Graham Platner. I'm not defending Graham Platner. Please stop yelling at me. I also don't even think his Reddit profile is irredeemable. I think his Reddit profile actually shows his Reddit profile is the only redeemable quality from my perspective, in spite of all of the other shit that has come out. But But overall, people looking at social media profiles and making a lot of assumptions or like yelling at people due to their social media profile is going to be a much more common thing.
Said that I'm a real person and this shouldn't be a problem. And the reason progressives are a little bit confident, he has the same media teams, so some of the same strategists as John Fetterman in 2022, as Zohran Mamdani right now. Both of them dealt with controversies. Mamdani's on debate stages renouncing his old tweets. They think there is a way past this, and they frame it all as, I'm only getting this attention, this criticism, because the establishment doesn't like me. Final thing I'd say about that is there's some Trump envy. That is how Trump and a lot of Republican candidates have gotten through scandals, by saying, yes, I'm not perfect. I'm like you. I've said some things I regret, and that makes me a more authentic, normal person. That has worked for Trump. It has not worked for some Trump-like candidates.
I'm gonna be honest. Like, this is a stress test for the absolute worst possible situation. Like, while I am more worried than ever before that even if he were to win, that he is likely to be a very malleable, possible John Fetterman style candidate. In the absence of any sort of alternative here, you're just kind of, Mainers are kind of locked into this. Having said that, okay, this is a stress test, especially because it's the worst possible, most irredeemable thing that you could do. But it's a stress test for whether or not a Trumpian style left candidate can actually overcome these sorts of things that in the past would have eviscerated anyone's candidacy. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it gets played out. Do you understand what I mean by this? Because, like, this is if the way I see it is, like, if liberals are fucking on board with like a hoorah Marine Corps guy with a Nazi tattoo because he has like a populist, he has like populist associations and he's on like the Bernie flank of the party or whatever. If liberals are on board with someone like that, then a candidate that has like no stains on his fucking reputation, they should be actively going out to battle for. And the example I will obviously use is Dr. Abdul El-Sayed. Dr. Abdul El-Sayed is another early Bernie-crat, okay? An early Bernie pick. Also anti-Zionist, has been very critical of Israel, has not shied away from that. And also simultaneously does have a completely untarnished reputation, okay? The problem here is Abdul El-Sayed is Muslim, right? So we shall see if it is actually the main driving force for liberals broadly is white supremacy and the assumption that like someone who is a grunt force veteran with a Nazi tattoo is not irredeemable, but someone with a completely infallible reputation with experience in local politics and state politics that happens to be brown might be a bridge too far. That is my big fear here. My big fear is that liberals will look to someone who, no matter how fucking far right their signals are, they end up saying, no, I'm in the tank because everyone else is super racist. Everyone else is super racist. This will be helpful. This will be helpful. You know, like the John Fetterman arguments. And then when there is a really good candidate out there, right, who is also a champion of progressive values, they will just say, I don't know about this guy.
Finding and highlighting in some of these races more relatable to actual voters in the state. What is he saying, though, about that tattoo? He was on Pod Save America, on the podcast with the former Obama aides, the three guys, and tried to explain and used a quote that you never want to use in a political campaign. Quote, I am not.
And before you say, this is exactly what a lot of what chat wanted you to discuss for your information. I know it's easily assumed, but it would be helpful to include racism and white supremacy in these talks. We're open to you talking about it more for chat to think about. Yeah, except that person literally is under the assumption that I don't talk about these sorts of issues and that I simultaneously am making an argument about white supremacy, playing a role in the considerations of liberals broadly here. And he thinks that I'm not saying that. And he is accusing me of being blind to white supremacist values by by literally just presenting the same argument that I'm making.
What's he saying about the tattoo?
Yeah, the short version, he got this skull tattoo with fellow Marines in Croatia. He was not fully mentally there when he did it. He never removed it. The discrepancy in the last really 24 hours has been, that was his story to Pod Save America. Jewish Insider reported, his story to Pod Save America included, he didn't know about the associations of the symbol. Jewish Insider reported that somebody who knew Platner a decade ago said he did know the associations. And him now saying that he's going to remove it, that complicates it. It went from something that he was comfortable showing off for a long time and joking about to something that he is ashamed of and going to remove. He had deleted his Reddit account years before entering this race. And that is some of the paradox here. One, he is saying, I made mistakes and that makes me normal. Two, yes, they're terrible mistakes and I'm ashamed of them and need to do something to wipe them out. And again, the reason progressives are saying let's give him a chance here is because this started unfolding right as Janet Mills, the governor of Maine, got into the race with the support of Chuck Schumer. That is how they see this. If it is opposition research, if it is connected at all to the D.C. establishment, no matter what the facts are, it is suspicious. That is how progressives view this. And I've seen very few people in the influential progressive commentary space or the endorsers of Graham Platner say this is a problem because they look at Republicans and say how would they do this? They would maybe apologize. They would maybe reframe it, but they would say this is only happening because the establishment doesn't like me. That is the default. And that was interesting here. The Pod Save America was a platform for him to try that out. He tried it. He said it to me too in a different, I think, more intense way. That's what they're going for.
Yeah, Dave, you make a great point about how the circumstances of these revelations are called into question, although people sometimes have noted to me, this also might point to some insufficient vetting of this potential candidate in the first few weeks of his launch. Although we should note, I mean, you're making a great point also about how Republicans seem to just plow forward. We did just have an example, though, of Paul Ingrassia not being able to do so, in part because the word Nazi is attached. So this would still seem to be a third rail here. But
I will say, there is a double standard here, but it's a warranted one. Not that I give a shit, but liberals seemingly do give a shit about that, which is that, yes, if someone is fucking signaling that they are a Nazi in private correspondence and they're running for the Nazi adjacent parties' positions of power, yeah, that's a little bit more fucking significant. Having said that, of course, the very fact that he is Blackwater and also fucking four-tour Marine machine gunner, that in and of itself also causes people to understandably assume maybe perhaps there is more to this story than we thought as far as like what his true opinions are. That's it. It's because people are not devoid of context and nuance. Okay? It's just like you look at a guy who says that they are a fucking Nazi and they're running for the Republican Party, like their ambitions are higher office in the Republican ecosystem, then yeah, no shit, people are going to be like, well, you said the quiet part out loud, brother. You know,
take a step back. Talk to us a little bit more about this sort of generational clash, because this Maine is being held up much like the New York City mayor's race, where you have a young Mamdani and an older sort of veteran establishment character in Cuomo. Here you do as well in the Senate race, Mills and Platner. This does see these races do seem representative of this real struggle the party is going through right now post 2024.
Well, one thing Democrats deal with in particular, Republicans don't, is that
also,
they lost.
It is funny when people are like, bro, I can't believe you're just like covering the story that is running headlines today and yesterday as well. It's just like, this is the story. Okay, sorry.
So recently. So if you were part of the Democratic political establishment, you don't have a win on the board in the last year to say this is how elections should be. This is what a candidate needs to win. That influences all this. There's also intervention here of the idea that Democrats are too censorious, that Democrats are the party of cancel culture, especially when it comes to white men. And that is something that Platner is leaning into, that there were nominees for positions in Biden's administration who said things that were controversial, and they got through their nominations. But the party has been losing ground with men in particular. You talked about J.D. Vance.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. It's crazy that they're deploying this valid argument in one of the only instances where it's like kind of understandable to deploy it. Okay, because like saying, okay, it's a bit of a red flag, guys. What are we talking about? Like, this is crossing a fucking line. That's the only time where it's appropriate to say, I think we're crossing a line here. And yet they are taking the maximalist stance on a valid position against like setting up a purity standard that ends up harming Democrats broadly. The only reason why I think this is like still, and we shall see how this unfolds, but the only reason why I think this is like not, like I'm trying to find the silver lining here. And the silver lining that I'm seeing here is that it will be a good thing for the Zorons of the world. It will be a good thing for the Summer Lees of the world. It will be a good thing for the Abdul El Sayeds of the world that don't have these kinds of insane stains on their reputation, but are still presenting an electability argument with left populist campaign slogans and left populist policies that you are saying you are going to achieve. The reason why I say this is because the purity standards Democrats only apply. The purity standards Democrats have only historically applied cynically to the likes of Bernie Sanders. Okay? And liberals, by and large, have actually gone along with that purity standard. They have literally leaned into, oh, Bernie is not electable. Oh, Bernie is this, Bernie is that. This means that voters are looking at Bernie and going, maybe we were fucking wrong. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Okay? I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. And I cannot believe that I'm saying this over the one singular instance where it is actually kind of insane that they are saying, oh, this is just cancel culture. It's like some things are valid. I think a Nazi tattoo is like valid and as far as like cancel culture goes. And I do wish that it wasn't like expending political capital of this sort on a candidate with so many with so many flaws, like actually irredeemable flaws in general. But if he can overcome this, regardless of whether or not he becomes another John Fetterman, I do think that this means that the Democrats are just Democrat voters are absolutely tired of the electability arguments being presented in defense of establishment candidates, in defense of centrist candidates.
But the overall idea that they're sharing is that there are a lot of people who grow up.
That's precisely the reason why I'm talking about this so much, because I think it's like it is a stress test on where the party goes going forward.
Up and they say stupid things, and they say them in public now because everything is online, and increasingly people can find your information even if you delete it. Do we want a society where they're canceled, and do we want a Democratic Party that cancels people and a Republican Party that doesn't? The idea being that men might look, Latino men, black men, white men might look and say, I don't want to be part of the party that cancels you and gets you out of your job and says you can never rise up in your career if you said something stupid. I might have said something stupid. So that is the overall thing they're going for, and they look at a Democratic Party that is more, again, it's supporting Mills. It is more ready to say that if you made these mistakes, you shouldn't be in public office. It is ambitious, and it is very convenient for Platner's campaign. But I think it does tap into something that Democrats are worried about.
Yeah.
How come men keep drifting?
I think Democrats want more shamelessness. This is such a white man take. I'm sorry. I think this is, by and large, a liberal take now. And if this is the overarching liberal take, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, especially when deployed in the direction of left flank candidates. Because let's be real, guys. Liberals are shameless, okay? They don't give a fuck about any of the identity shit. They literally said Bernie Sanders was racist when Bernie Sanders was getting fucking arrested during the civil rights struggle. And Hillary Clinton, as recently as like 10 years prior to her run in 2016, was talking about how awesome it was that she had black slaves on the front yard at the Arkansas governor's mansion. What the fuck are we talking about? These people don't give a fuck about any of this shit. So if they're going to be shameless, I'm glad that they're using the shamelessness in the direction of like a Bernie candidate, a candidate that Bernie hand selected. Yes, it signals that Bernie should have been more careful and more considerate, and it's fucking ridiculous that he just like didn't do enough research ahead of time, and they didn't like see the fat Nazi tattoo on his fucking chest. Okay, but that's my point. My point is that like this shamelessness and the cynical, the cynical id-pol identity politics deployment was only utilized by Democrats in instances where it was appropriate against their Republican opposition, but then also against their left flank with regular frequency, while they shamelessly hid or moved the conversation away from their own candidates' like failures.
Is that we're the party that says, take that episode off TV, don't say that, take that joke out of your comedy routine. Some of this is the how do we lose Joe Rogan? Oh, it's because Joe Rogan is fine with offensive jokes and we're not. It is a melange of things going on, but that is where Platner and progressives are taking it.
All right, 7-4's Dave Weigel, thank you very much for your analysis. His latest piece is available.
Regardless, unconditional support for him should be examined beyond his policies, since this same effort isn't extended to progressive candidates with diverse backgrounds. Why are all liberals rallying behind this now? Great question. And I do think it's because deep down inside, they don't give a shit, or they think it might be a benefit. And that's what it is. Okay? That's the argument that I'm presenting as well. That's what I'm saying as well. You guys know, guys, there is literally an early Bernie endorsement also running for a Senate seat, also running against a lot of shitty establishment Democrats who are super pro-Israel. His name is Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed, and I've been an early supporter and a booster, okay? An early supporter of Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed. He's been here. He's been in my house. I've gone to him in Michigan. We've hung out. You know where I stand on this stuff, okay? And yet, he's not making waves in the same way, and seemingly not getting the same level of defense. Now, maybe if there's more of a focus on the Michigan Senate seat, and the Michigan Senate seat, eventually people will start paying attention, and hopefully liberals will drop support in a similar fashion. Okay. Platner stuff is making me appreciate Mamdani more. Squeaky clean, always wears a suit. Just a guy who takes himself and his politics very seriously. He's a brown immigrant Muslim, so he doesn't have a choice about being extra disciplined and careful, but a lot of people could learn from him regardless, especially when it comes to not sounding insane, unrelatable, or even annoying the regular people. 100%. 100%. Yes, if you're a fucking brown Muslim doing politics, okay, you have to be extra attentive. Same thing goes for black people, okay? Straight up, the more aspects of marginalization you have in your background, the more careful you always have to fucking be. It is what it is. That's just, everybody knows this. Everybody fucking knows this. That's also precisely the reason why no one stresses, no one even stresses Andrew Cuomo's associations or his background. And it's not even a line of attack, partially because he has so many other things that you can attack him on, as opposed to Zohran Mamdani, which they can't find any oppo on. So they're just like saying, whoa, you fucking hung out with HasanAbi Piker. Google 9/11 Hasan Piker. Like, that's crazy. Can you imagine that being a point of contention in any fucking debate? Like if Zoran Mamdani had a fraction of the track record of Andrew Cuomo, he would have been ethered out of existence, okay? If he had looked in the direction of a woman, or if he had been even remotely associated with like similar types of crimes in the way that Andrew Cuomo is, he would be gone. It'd be over. Here's what he said. Here, he got a new tattoo. He covered it up. Let's see. Let's see what he said.
Hey everyone, Graham Platner here. I want to talk to you about something. In 2007, when I was a young infantry sergeant in the Marine Corps, myself and some machine gunners I served in Fallujah and Ramadi with were on our third deployment. We were in a naval vessel and we pulled in for a Liberty port in Split, Croatia. We went ashore to do the thing that young Marines do, which tends to be carousing and sometimes getting tattoos. We wanted to get something that represented our jobs, our service, fighting in Fallujah and Ramadi as machine gunners. We went ashore, we found a tattoo parlor after a fair amount of heavy carousing, and we found a tattoo on the wall, a piece of flash that looked like a terrifying skull and crossbones. We thought it looked cool, and so we got it. I have had this tattoo for the last 18 years. I re-enlisted into the United States Army with this tattoo, where I was screened for hate and gang-related tattoos. I worked for the State Department as a contractor, where I got a full physical, which included screening my tattoos. I've gone through life with this thing, taking my shirt off, having photographs taken, videos taken. I've been very, very open in my life with the fact I had a skull and crossbones on my chest, because that's what I thought it was. It's come to my attention that it has a stark resemblance to a symbol that is used by neo-Nazis. And
Flash Nazi symbols are fucking insane. Yeah, what do you think, bro? You're in fucking, if you're drunk on shore leaving Croatia and you walk into a goddamn tattoo parlor and you get a fucking flash tat, it's gonna be a Nazi tattoo, okay? Biggest mistake of my life, okay? Come on now. Yeah, if he hadn't said he got it in Croatia on shore leave, I would have been like, I think you sought this out and you went to a Nazi affiliated tattoo parlor. Okay. But the fact that he got it in Croatia is the most believable part. Okay. Just like the fact that the U.S. military didn't care about the tattoo is also very believable. But this is more damning about the United States military than anything else, really. Everyone seems to forget that it was a group tattoo. Yeah. The weirdest part of it is he hasn't said any Nazi shit, and he could, especially in this climate. If people are calling him a Nazi, why would he hide being a Nazi? That's the thing that bricks my brain, because that's the only that's the only thing that doesn't make sense in this entire story. Because everything signals that he would be a fucking white supremacist. Okay? 4 tours as a machine gunner in the Marine Corps, getting a fucking totem cough tattoo on his chest, joining Blackwater as late as 2018. All of those things combined, you're like, okay, this is a literal mercenary white supremacist. But then you look at his not public profile on Reddit, and there is not a single, there's like very few blemishes as far as like his statements, especially unexpected from a dude who has all of these things associated.
I want to say that was not the intent at all. And the idea that I've been going around with something like that utterly horrifies me. I know that symbols like this can be incredibly damaging to people, and the idea that I've had it all these years and it could have been read like that is incredibly troubling. I have lived a life dedicated to anti-fascism, anti-racism, and anti-Nazism. I think that racism and anti-Semitism are a long scourge on our society and a long scourge on our politics. And I think it has no place in our world. For that reason, I have gone and gotten it covered up. That's right.
Yo, he got the Grey Wolf. No, turns out he's a Turkish ultranationalist. Chatters. I do think I've seen. I never thought I would say this, but I think I've seen enough of a person running for Senate's belly. Enough to last a lifetime. Okay, I never thought that this Senate run would be defined by how much this candidate shows his fucking chest and belly. Yeah, mic
I
explosion.
went to a tattoo parlor and I got this to cover up the skull and crossbones. It's a Celtic knot with some imagery around dogs because my wife Amy and I have two wonderful dogs that we love a lot. This far more represents who I am now than even the skull and crossbones did, which I thought that it was. This has come up because the establishment is trying to throw everything it can at me. It is terrified of what we are trying to build here. Every second we spend talking about a tattoo I got in the Marine Corps is a second we don't talk about Medicare for all. It's a second that we don't talk about raising taxes on the wealthy. It's a second we're not talking about the material struggles of...
Celtic knot is not that much better. Wait, what? Is that also fucking... Okay, we might be pushing it. Is that also a fucking Nazi imagery? I don't think so, right? No. Yes? Yes? Wait, stop. No. At least he didn't get like fucking Nordic runes or some shit, chat. No, there's no way. I don't think so. He should have gotten a tattoo of Medicare for all. He looks like he has a 1919 tattoo on his arm. Yes, he does. Okay? He does. Why do we have to be like this all the time? He does. And it turns out there's a fucking reason behind it. Okay? Here it is. Some have pointed out the second tattoo on his arm with the number 1919 on it. We reached out to Platner's people about it, who have responded with a full picture and say that it's a Trail Forest Crew tattoo, which began in 1919 by the Appalachian Mountain Club. I do believe that there are, incidents like this that obviously make people become crazy because it's like designed. It's designed specifically to make you crazy. Having said that, however, we can't what the fuck is going on, man? Please. But like I said, there's the good and the bad. And the good is, if he pulls through from this, even though this is like irredeemable shit overall, if he pulls through on this, like, yeah, sure, Americans are stupid and it's an indictment about like their lack of knowledge on neo-Nazi and Nazi insignias and whatnot. But it also seemingly tells us that when someone comes out and is like, I'm anti-Israel, I want Medicare for all, for the first time ever, the liberal audiences are receptive to the argument that a Bernie hand-selected candidate is actually more electable than a Chuck Schumer hand-selected candidate. You feel me? You see what I'm talking about? That's the only silver lining in this circumstance. That is, of course, if it translates to the likes of Dr. Abdul El Sayed and numerous other candidates like Omar Fateh, and when re-election time comes around for like the likes of Summer Lee and whatnot, because ultimately, if they're just applying this to fucking white dudes who are Blackwater mercenaries, white dudes who are Blackwater mercenaries with a fucking Nazi tattoo, then yeah, that's just because they think everyone else is a white supremacist, so it's good. It's a good thing that he has a Nazi tattoo, and that's really fucked up.